Executive function refers to the higher level mental skills and processes involved that allows us to manage ourselves and get things done. After viewing this presentation, one should be able to better define executive functioning, describe the core areas of executive function, identify types of executive functions, identify general skills necessary for success, and identify skill issues that are challenging if the person has executive function skill deficits. Executive function skills are one part of the three main areas required for school, work, and life success. The ability to learn new things and apply what is learned, to do work, and to complete a variety of tasks, develop adequate social skills, navigate the social world and communicate effectively, and possess adequate executive function skills in order to plan, accomplish, problem solve, and regulate oneself. What is the sweet spot? Well, the sweet spot is when the individual achieves a level of proficiency and integrates all three areas, which ultimately then results in fluency, low effort, and personal satisfaction. This then maximizes one's independence and results in greater autonomy. The term executive function is the umbrella term for a wide range of cognitive processes and behavioral competencies. This set of mental processes helps to connect past experiences with present action. They are necessary for any goal-directed behavior, including the ability to initiate and stop actions, monitor and change behavior, anticipate outcome, adapt to situations, move freely from one activity to another, remember things, manage tasks by developing appropriate steps, in general, getting organized, and modulate stress or unexpected problems. The link on this slide is a brief video that provides good insight on how these executive functions develop. After viewing the short video, you should have a better understanding that the part of the brain that controls executive function is the frontal lobe. Executive functioning takes place largely in the brain's frontal lobe, and it plays a large role in many abilities and processes. Let's take a look at the three core areas. Mental flexibility, or flexible thinking, the ability to see problems from multiple angles and find different ways to solve them. Inhibitory control, which includes self-regulation, the ability to stop before one responds on impulse, to control your attention and your behavior, and to develop and manage your emotions. Working memory, the ability to keep information in mind so that one can then put the information to use and apply it whenever necessary. How does executive function affect learning and performance? Research indicates that executive function skill development begins early, even prior to the age of 1, and continues to approximately age 25 years. However, many individuals may not adequately develop these skills by adulthood. Any deficit in executive functioning can impact on the individual's ability to be independent, purposeful, goal-directed, and thus be successful. Studies have shown that impairments in executive function have significant impact on everyday life activities, including the ability to attend school, complete work, hold a job, and develop and maintain meaningful social relationships. Although executive function is a developmental process, because of the neuroplasticity of the brain, skills can be explicitly taught, developed, and strengthened through practice and repetition at any age. Therefore, it is possible to improve anyone's efficiency in carrying out daily tasks. Let's delve deeper into those brain processes that are so essential. Being that attention is essential for all information processing, let's take a look at some of the types of attention. So on your slide, you see focused, sustained, and shifting attention. All three are required in the executive function. Focused attention is the ability to respond to external stimuli, so something like noise, and to be able to respond to that, but not lose focus on the task at hand. Sustained attention, whether it be task or thought completion, the ability to maintain a consistent behavioral response for a period of time without interruption. Shifting attention, the ability to shift one's attention is essential for flexibility, conscious and deliberate movement of one's concentration from one thing to another for each item. Next, let's talk about preparation and planning. Essentially, breaking down a task and setting goal or goals towards the final outcome or product. Identifying all the necessary components before actually beginning. So looking at the following: total amount of time required, timeline towards completion and identification of steps to be completed at each increment, what materials are needed, identifying plausible confounding variables, and identifying the steps that will result in the desired outcome or product. Time management. The identification of how much time is required to complete a given task or accomplish something. Developing a plan for how to allow sufficient time to achieve that goal and to complete that task. Planning and allowing for time should there be any interfering factors. And then remaining task focused for the duration of time planned. Often we see in executive dysfunction that getting started on a task can be very challenging. Taking time to process input and then acting on it can be prolonged for individuals with neurodiversity, such as autism spectrum disorder, attention deficit or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and intellectual developmental disabilities. Developing multiple ways to getting started. Procrastination gives a student time to think and process and perhaps even problem solve. It's not always perceived that the individual is being lazy. After receiving information, the ability to begin a task activity in a timely fashion is what we look for. Generally, we're finding that someone who is neurotypical would be able to respond in 3 to 5 seconds after receiving the information, processing input and then being able to produce an outcome, the output. Ability to begin promptly and not succumb to distraction or other environmental factors. Working memory is not a single entity. It consists of a complex process involving multiple areas of the brain and channels. Central executive attentional system, modality-free limited capacity verbal rehearsal system, or otherwise identified as the inner writer. Time-based capacity, speech-based systems, phonological, also referred to as the inner ear. Decay rate of 2 seconds, spatial and visual information systems, known as the inner eye. And this has limited capacity. Receipt of information, storage, arrangement of information, and then subsequent retrieval of that information to be applied, perhaps at a different time. Poor working memory and recall significantly impacts an individual's function and behavior. The process used for temporarily storing and arranging information, storage and retrieval of information, complex neurological process involving multiple areas of the brain and channels, significant impact occurs if the individual has poor working memory and retention challenges. Organization. The ability to develop and maintain a system for arranging and keeping track of important information and items. Organization is accomplished through establishing routines, sequencing expectations, and maintaining order and structure. As infants, we are dependent on intervention and soothing from parents and caregivers. As babies, we begin to develop and learn how to self-soothe. As toddlers, we begin to develop our individual temperaments and emerging problem-solving skills. During school age, we learn to compromise, share, accept, and deal with losing, and we can begin to navigate peer issues and even mediate situations. During adolescence, which is accompanied with hormonal changes and can be a factor, as well as increasing stressors of peer relations, adult relationships, and navigating and balancing general expectations and social situations can become more difficult. Achieving the various milestones or difficulty attaining the necessary emotional skills can impact on the individual into adulthood. So each developmental stage is extremely important. Infancy, toddlerhood, school age, adolescence, all the way to adulthood. Studies have shown that children that can inhibit impulses actually learn more and retain information better and for longer periods of time. In social situations and later in life, this can mean the difference between frequent confrontations, arguing with others, or getting along. Executive function skills are all connected to the individual's ability to monitor oneself and modulate reaction. Contemplate and foresee the outcome of one's actions before actually acting on them, even in stressful moments, as well as the ability to take the perspective of others and understand and recognize how one's own actions could impact on someone else. This slide is an example of how the executive functions may work together. All the cognitive processes, logical and mechanical, emotionality, beliefs, desires, decision-making, personal interpretation, regulation of one's own social behavior, experiences with reward and punishment all come together and can result in the individual's response. Everyone is susceptible to variations in executive function. We all have differences. Neurodiversity, inclusive or exclusive of any formal disorders, can result in variations. There are many neuropsychological and clinical measures of brain function, but there is no single measure that can adequately assess executive function. Multiple formal and informal measures should be used when assessing executive functions. Use of only one checklist can typically overestimate executive impairments. One should consider individuals' age and functioning as it relates to same-age peers. And if assessment is done, one should reassess and monitor given the skills that can actually be taught over time. Factors that impact outcome include one's alertness, whether one has sleep disturbances or sleep issues, diet and consistent meal schedules, energy level, one's learning style, one's interest for a particular topic, one's attention span and level of engagement, receptiveness to feedback, and experiences with actually being successful. Students need support in developing executive function skills. Some additional considerations to promote successful executive functioning include: is the individual awake and ready to engage? Did they get adequate sleep and enough to eat? Is there an underlying medical condition that is keeping the individual from focusing? Is the task aligned with their learning style? And is it interesting to them? Is it aligned with their attention span? These are all important considerations when looking at either providing additional instruction or assessing one's executive function skills. Let's talk a little bit about executive dysfunction. Studies have shown that impairments in executive function have significant impact on everyday life, including the ability to get to work on time, complete work expectations, and therefore maintain a job, be independent, and to develop and maintain meaningful social relations. Challenging to create timelines, predicting, initiating, and planning a project. Challenging to tell a story, spoken or written. One has trouble communicating, providing details in an organized or sequential manner, and the ability to be succinct. Memorization and information retrieval can be difficult. Initiating activities or tasks or generating ideas independently can also be difficult. And difficulty retaining information while doing something with it. For example, remembering a phone number while dialing. These are all examples of where challenges may be noted.